and welcome back to the Nasty Metal Progress channel here at YouTube, and this is a currently listening to episode, or at least just what's spinning and so on, and it's just about maybe a couple 5 releases here that I just want to kind of go through, but I haven't done one of these in very much quite a long time, so I kind of felt maybe it's about the time that I at least do one, so here we go. Technically, there's at least 3 releases here that pretty much has sparked it to me to do one, but definitely gonna get through these. So what's really the first album here that I'm not gonna briefly talk about it, but it is gonna lead to a much different video, and that's a recent acquisition, and that's Fabulous Disaster from Exodus. This is the 2009 Japanese King's Record / Nexus release, again through the Combat Masterpieces series, the same one as my Forbidden Evil release I've had for practically almost close to 10 years now, but I had at least been trying to, looking for some of these, because these are very much highly sought after items for me. They're kind of like almost holy grails, but I lucked into a copy of Fabulous Disaster here at Fresno at Raspbian for like, $15? Normally this is about 15 to 60 to 70, but in pretty good shape, so I couldn't pass it up, and I never had a copy of Fabulous Disaster or any of the other Exodus albums besides Bonded by Blood, and that's been the only album from Exodus that I really spent most time listening to, except maybe Pleasures of the Flesh, but that's about to be even more rectified, and I'll tell you why. It's because of this right here, and I'm going to save all of my more thoughts for Fabulous Disaster when I get to do a video on basically my entire sort of rehaul, or just finally getting around to really wrapping my head around Exodus, and that's going to be coming up whenever I finally get my copy of Pleasures of the Flesh, again same as part of the Combat Masterpiece series. It's supposed to be, it could either be here tomorrow or it could be here Saturday, but it's definitely going to be here shortly. But once I do, there's going to be a video of me just going through at least the first 3 Exodus albums, and just me really going on about Fabulous Disaster and Pleasure of the Flesh, and just my whole I don't know if I can say rethink of Exodus. So that's coming up. But this is a bit of a teaser, and again, it belongs in this sort of pile, so that's kind of something to tease you all for. So there it is, Fabulous Disaster. Alright, so here's some of the main topics for this episode. So, first one's just showed up, but these are all part of recent reissues or whatever, but finally ended up acquiring this cult obscure classic though, so this is going to be getting a whole lot of love. This is Don't Meddle with Evil from Halloween, Detroit's heavy metal horror show. Technically, you could practically consider this as like very glammy sort of horror-themed heavy metal, basically. And there is definitely a lot of glammy sort of touches to some of the sound, but again, it's like in the sort of same way you maybe look at Leather Nun, and in that it's got the sort of glammy writing, but it's just got the fact that it's played hard, and that's kind of what it is. I mean, lyrically, it's not too far off, let's say, like Lizzie Borden, or no, maybe not nearly as vulgar as early Wasp, but maybe it kind of pushes maybe being more early Motley Crue too. Maybe even style-wise, it's not too far off from early Motley Crue, but it's much more intrinsic or whatever. It's more, technically different or better, whatever, than like early Motley Crue, but it's got the sort of same stylized, same sort of primitive playing as you'd think from like a glam band, but again, it's just the overall approach is much more hard, and that's what makes it so good. And I've always kind of wanted a copy of Don't Meddle with Evil, but I just can never really find it, or at least acquire the money to actually buy me a copy. But I lucked into getting this right here, which is the 2023 reissue or slash remaster through Lost and Found Records, and again through Mad Rush Media off of eBay, and so this is going to be getting a whole lot of love in this household, at least wherever I'm going to go, so it's going to get a whole lot of love. And I just had it downloaded for years and years, but finally getting around, and I still really enjoy this one because I just played it much more earlier in the day when I finally got it, so it still got a lot of love. So it's still a really good album. I still enjoy this, but this is definitely going to at least show up more often within a lot of these currently listening to episodes again, and everything throughout. So Don't Meddle with Evil from Halloween. Speaking of some also same sort of reissue whatever from Lost and Found Records, but this was from 2018. It's an album that I always wanted a copy of, but I never really could get around to buying until most recently. But Depths of Death from Sentinel Beast, most probably because of this was Debbie Gunn, again, a woman-fronted sort of speed thrash metal band. Again, it was, again, as you can tell, Metal Blade Records back in 1986. But I just never really got around to actually getting a copy of this album just most recently, and just looking on eBay, someone was selling this copy for a pretty good price, so I jumped on it. I don't know what it is, but I kind of wish I might have grabbed this one a long time ago. To say this would probably be the most groundbreaking thing through like Metal Blade Records would be a stretch, because of this still isn't gonna, let's say, make the greatest sort of Metal Blade releases. Like, let's say if you put this on par with like Hell Awaits or War and Pain, or maybe even like a Tales of Terror, or any of the Fates Warning releases. It's just like the really big ones that many people can think of. I don't know if I can put it in that list, but it's still a damn good release, and it's still very good. It's still very enjoyable, and it's got a thrashiness to it, but it's just, there's still a very sort of grandiose sort of quality even to some of this as well, that I find to really be very charming, whatever is I think the word I'm kind of looking for. But dang, it still is a really good album. There's nothing to snooze on here with Depths of Death, and I kind of wish I kind of grabbed this one a long time ago, but hey, better late than never. But yeah, I've been enjoying this one a lot, so it's been getting a lot of love here. So Depths of Death from Sentinel Beast. Yeah, I just really dig this. From like the title track, the one thing that really kind of jumps out at me is a lot of like the gang shouts, but it's got where it really comes across as very typical thrash and all the gang shouts, but the thing is that it's over something that's more grandiose and quality in a way. It's like there's a bit of that sort of classic, sort of punky sort of ethic that you got from a lot of the thrash stuff through Metal Blade. Let's even, like, for example, like Nasty Savage on the debut album. But the thing is that there's a certain extra quality to it. Like there's more conviction through it than I really come to really expect, and it's really what kind of brings this up for me. It's really at times pretty good. So it's one of those albums that really creeps up on you. I'd say it's probably just as good, if not maybe slightly more, let's say, more, what would be the, kind of come up with a really good analogy, more convicted, I guess, than, let's say, Thruth's Fist Held High, but it's probably almost on par with that album, if not maybe even more realized in the sort of department. But there's nothing to snooze here. It really shouldn't be snoozing on Depths of Death. So there you go. Really enjoying this one a lot. Finally, these are some of the ones I'm going to kind of go through. Next up is act that's been getting quite a bit here is finally, again, since I kind of mentioned that I didn't really have a copy of Victim of the Blade, or was it Victim? Yeah, Victim to the Blade from Vulture, because I've got every other album already from Vulture, anyways. But I was just missing this one. Finally, I've acquired a copy of it, and again, it's been getting a lot of love here. I really love the CP. But once I eventually get back to getting the rest of my Vulture catalog that I've had up in Susanville, real soon you will see a listing, like a ranking of my favorites or whatever of Vulture. So that will come very soon too. So there it is, Victim to the Blade from Vulture. Alright, going along, this has been another recent acquisition, but it's another band that I've been wanting to add some to the collection. But it is Plasmatics here, and of course I found this at Raging Records at the River Park location here in Fresno, and they end up having a copy of, well, Beyond the Valley of 1984. Is that right? Yeah, Beyond the Valley of 1984, which is their second album. This is still very much still footed within the punk sort of style as at least the early Plasmatic releases, so it still has the punk sort of aesthetic to it, but you can start to kind of hear that sort of heavy metal / hard rock sort of thing starting to creep in the writing and the playing. Hell, there are plenty of moments on the sound where it kind of crosses to being very proto-speed thrash. So you can kind of start to hear the metal sort of influence to creep into the stylings here, but it's still fairly punk in its playing there. Still, it's a very much an enjoyable album. I'm not going to really knock anything on this album, but it's still enjoyable. And it's when it comes to at least to punk, this normally tends to be the thing that I tend to really gravitate towards. But I still dig it. I wouldn't say this. Actually, it's almost coming close to being maybe my second favorite from Plasmatics, because my first would actually be Coup de Grace, which I covered on this channel already, but I don't really have a physical copy of it, so I've been looking out for one. But still, this at least does for the time being, and it's a very enjoyable album. I just need to spend more and more time with it, because I never did, but just recently acquiring this album now I'm actually beginning to more appreciate this album more and more further. So yeah, it's still a very good album nonetheless from Plasmatics. By the way, fun little fact, the drummer on this album, if you could believe it, is Neil Smith of, Alice Cooper Band fame. So that's one of those that kind of blew my mind when I actually acquired this, because I never really knew, because I kind of remember listening to the album a long time ago, but I never paid attention to a lot of the band members on the album. So I overlooked the fact, however, that Neil Smith is the drummer on the album. So fun little connection to the Alice Cooper Band, especially on this album of all albums. So very interesting and pretty fun fact. So Beyond the Valley of 1984 from Plasmatics. Finally, to end this off, before I possibly head to bed, this has been getting a lot more love again recently, but this is not the Metal Mind reissue that I've had for a long time. This is the reissue through High Roller Records, because over time I've kind of come to realize how shitty that old Metal Mind release sounded. So once I found out few years ago, whatever, that High Roller Records was reissuing this, I definitely put this copy at least in my want list for a long time, but finally getting around to upgrading to this copy. And yeah, it's still a fun German thrash album, and I still enjoy it. What I now still consider to be one of my all-time favorite German thrash albums, I kind of still do, but that's for a lot of nostalgic reasons. But I think really at its core, I don't know if this could ever really outbeat, let's say, like a Pleasure to Kill, or Agent Orange, or Infernal Overkill, or any of the classic sort of, or anything classic from Destruction, or let's see, like Raging Steel from Death Row. I don't know if it really could ever outbeat any of those albums, but it still is a very enjoyable album, and I still dig it, and I'm kind of now happy they have a much more better sounding copy of Malevolent Assault of Tomorrow from Violent Force. So there you go. Violent Force. That ends it off. Definitely a bit of a shorter sort of currently listening to episode, but I just want to keep it at least short as minimum. And I'll definitely still get back to doing more of these more often, and I will definitely follow up on that Exodus sort of video that I want to do. So there it is. If you have any comments about any of these albums, you can all leave them down in the comment section below. So with that, this is Every Thrasher saying I'm out, and I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone. Good night.